Hey guys, how's it going? Johnny B here again. Today we're gonna be upgrading this GR86 with a turbo kit. It's got some gorgeous wheels on it. It's one of my favorite colors, and it just needs to be a little bit faster. So we're gonna go ahead and upgrade it with an HKS turbo kit. Let me show you guys what we got. So here it is. We have the gorgeous turbo in here. Look at that. HKS GT3 has HKS on it. I think they said the equivalent or what's in it is a Garrett 2971R. So it's a decent sized turbo, and then the intercooler is like, it's fat. I think it's like I don't even know what size it is. Probably like a 4-inch intercooler. And we got some other goodies like injectors. We have a Walbro 485, and these are just like the extra pieces that go with all the HKS stuff. We got a manual as well. One thing we're waiting on right now is to get the turbo manifold and downpipe because those got Cerakoted. But we're gonna start taking this thing apart and show you guys the process through some time lapse. So let's get started. All right, so as you guys saw in the time lapse, we went ahead and took the manifold off, the intake manifold off, and we went ahead and clamped all the vacuums underneath because those will pop off under boost. So that's like #1 priority. It's probably a little bit of the most difficult part of the job is having to take this off. But since it's off, it'll make it easier right now for us to install the Injector Dynamics 1050Xs on it and just have this all fully set up. We could even put the map sensor on it right now. And the only issue with that is that we can't test the car without a tune. So we need to have a tune that is set up for the 3-bar map sensor for the injectors, and then the car will turn on. But typically you leave those on, you can put the turbo kit on, and you will be able to turn it on and check for any leaks. But you won't be able to do that with this setup unless you have a tune. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a tune right away, so we will do that now. And plus, changing these out later is probably gonna be more difficult than changing them out that we have them, you know, out in the open like this. So let's go ahead and swap these out and continue. So we got the oil pan back on after drilling the hole. They give you some measurements, so that's to be 25 millimeters this way, and then from this lip down here, it's gonna be 40 millimeters. And then you just have to make a 17 millimeter hole, so that way we can weld on the piece that they include, which is this. kind of goes like that. The way they show it, it has to have like a certain distance from it as well. So I'm guessing they move it over to the side a little bit to have some clearance. Not sure if this part's supposed to go in or not, but that'd mean we'd have to either cut this off or make the hole bigger, but this is already the size that it needs to be. So we might just have to cut this off, get it to line up. And then based off of the pictures, they want us to be like 20 millimeters apart from this pulley. So we'll figure that out, but the angle seems to be correct. So let's get this welded on. All right, so we went ahead and checked inside here to make sure that it was clean, but turns out it wasn't. Look what we found. This is probably the most I've seen, even on forums. And the last turbo GR86 I did had maybe like that much. And this thing's just packed. But luckily he was running 5W30, so that probably helped save it. And no catastrophic engine failure. So now that it's all cleaned up, we can go ahead and put the oil pan back on. You guys saw me, I was TIG welding it. It's not the prettiest, but TIG welding will always be a lot cleaner and won't melt through. If I use the MIG, I could always make holes, and it's really hard to get a MIG to seal properly, but with the TIG, we got it done. So let's go ahead and RTV it and put it on. But not put as much as the OEM so we don't clog it up again. Got it painted up so it doesn't rust. Now let's go ahead and apply my secret sauce, which is just Honda Bond. And this isn't supposed to tear apart like that does. So let's go ahead and coat this and get the oil pan on. Oil pan's on, and then we added some of this reflective tape that they include in the kit, just because the header passes by here. That way it'll reflect the heat and not heat up the oil that's in the pan. And it just looks really cool. Back in the day when I did my car, I had some gold reflective tape in this section, just because this is the part where the collectors are, you know, they merge, and then it just, if you're really pushing it, it gets like red hot. And that's the only reason why I had done it back in the day when I did my turbo build on the previous car that I had. But let's go ahead and continue. Now we can finally put the manifold on, because this is a big piece that you need to put on before. All right, we got the oil pan on. It's looking proper. So I decided to go ahead and tackle putting the intake manifold back on. Didn't really want to record that to bore you guys. It's just little simple things that we need to do. And next I'm just following the instructions and seeing what goes where and at what point, because I want to kind of follow it in order and not mess up putting the cover that goes here and not being able to put on the belt and whatnot. And they also wanted the AC compressor off, so little things like that I'm just going to follow in order, just to make sure that I don't have to take stuff apart again to put something where it goes. I don't like doing things twice, so let's get it done right the first time. So this is off because we got to do the water lines and the oil lines. So here is the feed. Essentially you pop off where the oil pressure sensor goes. That's the OEM one. And then you use this T-fitting with that, and that's how you get that connected. So one of the things I want to do right now before we start putting all this stuff in here is to pretty much protect all of these here. It's funny because they show the pictures already after they put the turbo, like the intercooler. So they're doing stuff backwards kind of. This, when they went back, look, they already have the turbo on and they're showing you the lines. And this is like the beginning of the manual. But essentially they're just showing us where we have to mount what. This looks like it's up top, and they want us to just wrap the harnesses for the fans routes, for the fans I mean. So these harnesses here, looks like they remove them and they pop them up, and then they cover them as much as possible and route them through a different side here. And then they cover the motors. These motors are here. and as much as possible. Even the little parts that go to those, they cover those up. So it's quite a bit they want us to wrap up, but it's all to make sure stuff doesn't fail. Also, this needs to be cut out. Cut it out right there. You guys can see, just a nice flush cut. That's out. This, I have no idea where this is even at. It says upper part of the fan shroud, but there's nowhere up here that looks similar that I've noticed, but I'm sure we'll find it right now when it's something's in the way or it's touching. And yeah, obviously we already did the oil pan that got welded up. That was like one of the big things that we didn't want to do. This section here was clamping up underneath there. It looks like they do it through here, but it's kind of a pain. So the way I did it was a lot easier for me, even though it's more work to remove that. And then we also clamped these hoses that they show here, which is just essentially this hose here that goes down to the crankcase. So we're getting there. Jumping ahead of what the manual says, but I already know what I'm doing most of the time with these kits, so it's not nothing I haven't done before. And then that piece there has to get a little bit widened, so we just gotta drill that out, and we'll make that slightly bigger. I'm guessing it's to shift it somewhere. Don't know exactly why, but we'll do what they want. So here we are with the oil fitting. Set it up the same way, and you hook up the line to it, you insulate it, and then it goes on the turbo. That's why we have that oil fitting right there ready to go. And then after that, they want us to put this plate on, which is gonna hold the turbo, which is weird because it shows they have the belts off, but you can't put the belt on afterwards. Like there's no way to put the belt on because it has to go through that pulley. See, look, they already show the belt on here. Well, I guess they do have the belt on that one. I'm tripping. This one doesn't show the belt. So I'm guessing in one of these little sections, they tell you to put the belt back on. Oh, there you go. Before attaching the bracket, make sure to pass the belt through the inside of the bracket. Yeah, so if you ever want to change your belt, that's going to be a fun time, because you're going to have to remove that bracket and possibly remove the turbo if that bracket's in the way. All right, so let's get these little steps done, and then we can continue. All right, so I've just been going at it, adding all the heat wrap that they provide in the kit. They want you to pretty much wrap everything. These lines, they want them to be routed from over there up through here, and then just downwards, because they'd be in the way of the downpipe over here. So that's a pretty good idea. Next time I do a JDL turbo kit, I could do that instead of routing them down like I did on a Benz car. So I kind of like this idea a little bit better. So there you go. That's what they're showing me they wanted me to do. They went a little bit crazy, but I think this is going to be good for what we need. Typically, that's not even a problem in a lot of the other kits, but William was like, I'm down to do whatever they want, just to have all that extra protection. So that's what we're doing. All right, so now that we're done with that, we can go ahead and continue with a little bit of more stuff we talked about earlier. I have to do the radiator, so I'm draining it, and we have to do the water lines for the turbo that come off of the oil cooler. So I have to drain it anyway, so I might as well just drain it now, take that out, and then figure out what I have to do with the water lines, and kind of get that started, since there's going to be no coolant in the system. And we're going to get a Koyo rad installed, so that boy right there is going to go in just to have a little bit better cooling. All right, we got the exhaust manifold on. Had to two-man it, have one person holding while I bolted it up, and these two get left loose. So for this exhaust bracket, kind of holds the downpipe when it comes down, just so it's not having too much tension on it. But that's how it looks down here. So now we're gonna go up top again and start setting up all the bracket systems where the manifold bolts to that plate there on the engine. So the turbo is on. And it was quite the pain, because that's the only nut that you can access. The other ones are in really difficult places, especially if you have a really long wrench, because that's all you can use. And it has to be an open end because you can't get the closed end around it, because most of the wrenches I have are thicker than that spot. But we got it done. I had to actually move the radiator over. I unbolted the radiator, move the hose, give me a little bit more space so I can tighten those down. So now the next step would be to put the downpipe according to the instructions. So I guess we're gonna have to wait a little bit on doing the oil lines. Although I can do the oil feed pretty easily since that's already set up. And then the water lines are gonna go here to those two spots there. But let's just go with what the instructions are saying, and we'll do this part. Here goes the gasket for that, and then I gotta set up the downpipe so we can put that in there.
Oh, you look above you. You have it.
Let's remove the plastic. Oh, they have this individually wrapped. Cool. Wheels over here. That's why you guys are hearing extra voice, but they individually wrapped the HKS logo. That's funny. It's got like the blue wrap, and then the HKS logo is also wrapped in blue.
Oh, really?
But that has to come off or else it's gonna melt on there anyways. That's like tedious work right there for them to just wrap that individually and then wrap it over. It's kind of hard to get at the same. I don't want to remove it earlier, so we just don't scratch it as we put it in. But we had a little bit of protection. And there we are. Look at that. It's even got a little code there for the emissions. And that's how the bottom looks. We got the over pipe connected to the turbo, and now we can bring the car down so we can continue up top. So the downpipe is all set. We were able to bolt it all in, but before that we were trying to get this bracket on. We were just having a hard time getting it to line up, so I actually had to loosen everything, even the turbo, to be able to shift it over enough to barely have some clearance to put these two bolts into this bracket. Then after that we went ahead and ran the water lines. They pretty much make the turbo into a bypass for the oil cooler. So you connect it to this bottom one that feeds to the top to this intercooler. So that's where we get this water feed system. And then we finally hooked up the oil feed, which is one of the last things that we had to do on the instructions. So now the turbo is all plumbed up. It's got oil and water. And now we can start putting on like the heat shield, intercooler, and then start cutting up a bunch of stuff that we have to cut to get it all to fit properly. We got the turbo kit installed, and now we're gonna try to start it. Check for leaks. Sounds good. Here's the cut we made for the intercooler. Got cut there and all the way here. And then you have to cut this bottom plate too. And these cuts here. Cuts you have to make on the core support. Yeah, no, everything's looking good. I don't see any leaks. We put oil in it last night, and all the oil pan and anywhere where it would leak oil, everything was perfect. So now we just got the tuner inside, hanging with the owner. We're ready to rip it around, see how it drives. But we just didn't want to put the bumper on before checking to make sure there was no leaks. All right, we're gonna see them tune it, see if we can hear it. We're just gonna cruise for now. Just do another pull? You guys gonna do another one or not? Yeah? Takes off good. Van Buren, you can do another pull on Van Buren here on the right.
That's not supposed to pop.
It's popping, huh? Oh, that feels good. That feels good.
Oh, that's nice.
Can you hear it more now with the vents?
Oh yeah, it's louder. It reminds me of when we had the front bumper off, and it was louder.
The sound has somewhere to escape.
Yeah.